Scott, I don't know if you heard much of what Donald Trump had to say today. The goalposts seem to have moved again. Today he was talking about the Canadian military. Did you hear any of this?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I want to play for our audience as well, then we can talk about this. Here's some of what Donald Trump had to say. Listen to this.
Canada's been very bad to us on trade, but now Canada's going to have to start paying up. And Canada's been tough on the military because they have a very low military cost. They think we're going to, protect them with our military, which is unfair. So Canada's going to be a very interesting situation because, we just don't need their product. And yet they survive off the fact that we do 95% of what they do. And Canada is just absolutely, I say it, and sometimes people smile and sometimes they say great idea, but Canada, their taxes would come down greatly. Their security would go up greatly. Amazing things happen to Canada. And really, Canada, in this particular, why would we pay $200 billion a year?
Okay, enough. Nothing new in there. Scott, he goes on, and then at the end, little dig, and again refers to Justin Trudeau as Governor Trudeau. Look, I know we've heard this all before, but when I say the goalposts have shifted, suddenly we're hearing, I know the military issue has come up before, but it seemed to sort of be an aside. Today was front and center. Is this a change?
I think it's all part and parcel. I think it's just another layer of the same onion. And look, we've all heard the phrase, usually said in jest, sometimes said with a little tinge of anger, the ugly American. You go traveling abroad, you bump into the big loudmouth who tries to take over the restaurant in Italy or France and tells everybody what they should be ordering and wants to act like, they know it all. I'm from America. And, Donald Trump is putting new energy behind the phrase the ugly man. He's the ugliest of all Americans. And the reason I go into that isn't just jingoistic anti-Americanism. It's because when this clown carries on like that, he genuinely thinks that Canada would like to be part of the 51st United States. We'd love to be the 51st state, that we would see that it's a good deal. I mean, and that is the definition of the ugly American. It's that they're also oblivious to their obnoxiousness. And there's no one more oblivious, more blind, more deaf to his insane obnoxiousness than Donald Trump. But I got good news for you, because I think Donald Trump made a grave, grave error today.
Oh, I'm waiting with bated breath. Yes, please.
Well, I really do. So we've been getting it for over 2 weeks now. We've been getting this kind of verbal abuse, and we get, okay, I'm going to slap tariffs on Monday. Oh, now I'm not going to. I'm going to give you a 30-day reprieve.
Right.
Oh, 30 days turned out to be 6 days. I'm going to hit you with steel and aluminum. Okay, well, we'll see that. And then, by the way, there's also but now he's done it to the whole world. And what he said today with this proclamation that he made, that he said, look, there's going to be reciprocal tariffs coming from the United States, and that he wants to exert these on jurisdictions all around the world, because if he doesn't like their taxation policies, if he doesn't like their monetary policies, he doesn't like their economic policies. If, for example, you're a nation, as almost all nations in Europe, and certainly we in Canada, obviously, in Quebec, have a VAT, a value-added tax. It's built. Well, no, that's an unfair tax on American products. So he's going to slap a tariff on there. What he's doing is he's trying to literally now spread beyond Canada and declaring economic war on everyone. And it's an ugly American, because what he's really trying to do is to say, I want you, every other country in the world, to conform your taxation policies, your economic policies, your monetary policies to what we do here in the United States. Because as far as he's concerned, the United States is Rome, and he is emperor. And he's Commodus. He's crazy, and he's abusive. And I think by taking on the whole world, he's made a huge mistake. It's going to be completely rejected by the balance of the world, and he's overreached and overstretched, and instead of just beating up on Canada, he's now taking on every country in the world. It's not going to work. Investment will dry up. Jobs are going to be hit in the United States. Prices will rise. Inflation will increase. And I think within 2, 3, 4, 5 months, he's going to be forced to retreat. All of this will just be hot gas. And so I think that actually, in a perverse way, this abusive tactic that he's used today helps, because now it puts the rest of the world in the boat that Canada is in, And the rest of the world doesn't want to be in that boat. They don't want to be treated that way any more than we do.
I wonder if this does provide the impetus, Scott, for other countries, these other countries, now that this is a global attack, as you just outlined, to get together on their own and say, hey, you know what? India, whatever, we'll trade with Canada directly. We don't need to bother with the U.S. We can go around you. Is that something you see happening?
I see a bunch of things happening, and in all honesty, what I think will occur is, yes, all of those things will occur. But if I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not smart enough to imagine the things that will occur. I don't operate at a level of high finance and international trade. What I think is going to happen is that the world operates according to incentives. And what an incentive to place into the center of the global trading and economic and financial infrastructure to have America no longer be a reliable anchor to that system. If that's what he's going to do, if that's the architect of his actions, if that's the consequence of his actions, then he's going to unleash all sorts of possibilities. And so, yes, I do think you'll see a whole bunch of trading blocks that exclude the United States or that don't give them preferred status anymore. I do think you'll see countries essentially gang up on the U.S. or at least exclude the U.S. But I think you'll see things that we don't imagine right now. I think this is a huge moment, and if he doesn't back down, I think he will diminish America and its economic might. He thinks this is the path back to being the great imperial power of the world, and I'm convinced it will have exactly the opposite effect.
I wonder if we take some solace in the fact that his chairman, his Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, today basically tried to provide a little bit of context, saying that they're going to study the various, tax systems or whatever in various parts of the world, and probably will have something to offer, not in March, but now we're back to April again.
Yeah, and you notice that corresponds, by the way, with something that happened yesterday, kind of quietly, with all the premiers, shuffling around Washington, basically just banging on people's doors blindly, saying, "Hi, we're from Canada. Can we have a meeting, please?" Since they were getting, basically the chill shoulder from the White House. But Howard Lutnick met with Dominic LeBlanc, the finance minister, and that meeting wasn't about steel and aluminum per se. It was about April 1st. So, people talk about, well, Trump's come into his second term and he's got this laid out plan. He's got all these, these lunatics have been working in the asylum for the last number of years, and this time they mean business. Well, they do mean business, but they don't have a plan to do things. They have a plan to announce things. And they are now encountering the cold, hard reality that just because they say something should be, or just because he declares it to be, or just because he signs a piece of paper that says something is to be, doesn't make it so.
Can I ask, with respect to our own premier, who's getting a lot of flack today here in Quebec, this idea that he was part of this mission down there, if we can call it that, yesterday to the U.S., and sort of offering right just there and then, before anything is even on paper, to make concessions to try to mitigate, or I guess to some degree anyway, to minimize the effects these concessions would have, or these tariffs would have on Quebec. That seemed to me be a break from the rest of the Canadian premiers who were there.
Yeah, and there's been hints of it here and there. Obviously, we've seen the Alberta premier say, well, I want to exclude certain items. I want to therefore, curtail our negotiating ambit somewhat. But I was a little, a lot of it's politics. It's an impossible situation to be the Quebec premier, I think, in many respects. And when you're part of Team Canada, but you're also the Quebec premier, and when you know that, the United States wants to target a bunch of industries that are, particularly sensitive to Quebec, and when you think about, so you think about supply management and so forth, it's a tough spot to be in. But I was surprised, really surprised, kind of jaw-dropping surprised today when he was asked about it. And he started kind of saying, well, look, some things are non-negotiable. But, I think we could fool around a little bit, maybe even with aluminum at some point. Certainly we could probably negotiate around pharmaceutical industries, aeronautics. I don't know, man. My experience in federal politics was, certainly as an English guy, if you walked into a room and started shooting your mouth off about trimming the sales of the aeronautic industry or the pharmaceutical industry in Quebec, you would be pushed out of that room with force. So I was surprised to hear him volunteer those things, and not surprised to see that it met with a lot of stiff reaction politically.
All right, we leave it at that. Scott, I thank you so much. Appreciate the time.
Thanks. Have a great day.